Europe is shaking.
It's red! Old Trafford is roaring! Manchester United a quarter of an hour away from Derby delight.
That's not an earthquake. That's Manchester United coming back to the race.
Is the Manchester United DNA finally clicking again? And
Manchester United are looking very, very good right now.
Surely Man United now go on to get Champions League football, and then they're going to make life very hard for all of us.
This club belongs in the Champions League.
United are back. United are back.
It's not just any Manchester United. It's the Red Devil of Michael Carrick.
Finds a boomer in the area. That is clinical from Manchester United. O'Reilly looks to get the cross in. Dorgu, 2-0. Oh, it's fantastic.
From a team eliminated in the Champions League group stage and sitting 15th in the Premier League, Manchester United are now making a powerful comeback and reasserting themselves as the king once again.
Away from Alejandro Garnacho, gets past him in actual fact to the byline, balls it back into the area. United in the front. Mateus Cunha clear. Referee blows the full-time whistle. The gap back to 6 is 10 points. A famous victory for Michael Carrick's side.
Well, Manchester United took all 3 points at Stamford Bridge and they beat Chelsea by a single goal to nil. Cunha got it to maintain third position and their hold on Champions League qualification.
If the Premier League started in January 2026, the title race would no longer be just about Manchester City and Arsenal. It would be called the name of Manchester United.
Look at the vibes, man. Look at the difference on your sofas, in the stadiums, in the pubs, when you're supporting Man United when they're flying. My weekend was turned upside down for the right reasons this weekend and last. I see passion, I see enjoyment, I see adrenaline, I see a connection with the fans. I see the players going over and genuinely giving it to the fans and going, that's what we're here for you, we're trying to do everything we can. That's what performances like that give you, man.
No more clumsiness, no more fear when stepping into matches. The aura of victory has found its way back to the theatre of dreams.
Area looks to get the cross away. Šeško gets there and he scores! Big bit of the strength for that!
Straight back in there towards the far post. Casemiro with a header. And Manchester United are back in this game.
Manchester United are returning to the European stage not through thunderous statements or a grand expedition, but in silence. The Red Devils are coming back with a calm, almost unsettling stability. No need for spectacle, yet impossible to stop.
Actually, breaking news in the last half an hour. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked as manager of Manchester United.
But Manchester United have sacked their manager, Erik ten Hag.
Breaking news, it's over between Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. The Portuguese head coach has been sacked with immediate effect after his explosive rant yesterday.
Manchester United and Michael Carrick have reached a verbal agreement for him to become the interim head coach until the end of the season.
How would you describe the vision, the philosophy, the type of football United are going to play?
We want to win game. I think for me it's working with the players. I love working with the players and helping them and get better and individually, which hopefully will help the team improve and be there to support them. And I'm one of them, you know, we're all in it together, and I think it's important that here we all look after each other and hopefully we can play in a really exciting type of football and be positive and express and bring excitement, you know.
Manchester United's starting point under Michael Carrick was not a glamorous journey or an immediately celebrated rebuild. It began with a team that had spent years struggling with a fundamental question. Who are they in modern football? Their identity kept shifting, stability came and went, and every season carried the pressure to win immediately in order to ease the long-standing doubts left behind by successive managerial eras. Carrick entered that context as a solution aimed more at rebalancing the system than making a revolution. Without noise or big statements, he approached the team in a very pragmatic way, reducing chaos, simplifying roles, and bringing players back to the basic principles of tactical organisation. The important thing was not that Manchester United became perfect, but that they began to look like a more structured collective. Early hype emerged quite quickly. as Manchester United started picking up wins in big matches, especially against strong opponents.
Saka inside the penalty area, clipped back into the box, chance for Erdogan, it's been turned home. Bumo presses, maybe an opportunity, mistake from Arsenal, and Bumo in behind, takes a touch, scores for Manchester United! Fernandes lifts it back to Patrick Dorgu, takes it with him, Dorgu's left-footed effort, it's a screamer! Here comes the next corner into the box, up comes Senna Lommans, loose inside the penalty area, over the line is it, referee looks at his watch and says, Arsenal goal. Chance here for Cunha! Mateus Cunha!
Michael Carrick's been in charge about 14-15 days and he's put the spirit back into Man United. He's putting players in the right positions. They're playing with quality. They're playing with excitement. Kobbie Mainoo in the middle of the park, excellent. Bruno, excellent. Casemiro, superb. I think the job that he's done in the short term, Michael Carrick, has been outstanding.
What stood out was not how many games they won, but how they won them, without fully controlling the game, yet being extremely clinical in exploiting key moments. From there, a new belief began to form that Manchester United were no longer fragile in high-pressure matches. But alongside that, a period of doubt quickly emerged. Against low blocks and well-organised teams, Manchester United did not always look dominant. They had more possession and more control, but lacked sharpness in the final third. It was this lack of explosiveness that led many to question whether this was a team capable of sustaining a long title challenge. And then the clearest turning point came in the match against Chelsea. In an unfavourable context, with a depleted squad and being under pressure for most of the game, Carrick still maintained a disciplined defensive structure strong enough to hold firm. Manchester United did not need many chances, but they produced the decisive moment and capitalised on it to secure a 1-0 victory at Stamford Bridge. It was not a beautiful win, but it was a defining one. It was their first win there since 2020, and the script of the match went against almost every conventional logic. Chelsea took 20 shots while Manchester United had only 4, yet the only goal belonged to Mateus Cunha, following a decisive action from Bruno Fernandes, who continues to serve as the most important connecting point in the entire system.
It is Fernandes! This is his stage. Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes with yet another goal, and United have 5. Fernandes. He's done it again. Bruno, once more, brings the house down at Old Trafford.
This was not a random moment. It was a direct consequence of how Manchester United operate. They do not need many chances, but every chance comes at the right time, in the right space, and with the right player. And when you zoom out beyond a single match, this pattern becomes even clearer. In 2026, Manchester United have collected 28 points in the Premier League, more than any other team in the same period. At the same time, Bruno has recorded 18 assists, far ahead of the next player on the assist rankings, Ryan Cherki, with just 10. This has turned him into an almost absolute creative hub, where nearly every dangerous attacking move flows through him. All of this not only shows consistency, but also defines Manchester United under Carrick. This is a system that knows how to turn very few chances into 3 points. At this stage, under Michael Carrick, Manchester United are not built to control games in the traditional sense. They do not try to suffocate opponents through possession, nor do they constantly push high to press. Instead, they choose a different way to exist, maintain a compact structure, keep the tempo calm, and wait for the exact moment when the game begins to drift away from the opponent's patience. That is when they strike.
Into the penalty area, Bumo! Manchester United lead, brilliantly worked, what a cross!
That is why matches like the one against Chelsea happen. United do not need much of the ball or many chances, yet they are still the ones who decide the outcome. Not because they create more, but because they understand exactly when to create. And when you place that into a bigger picture, it is no longer about isolated moments, but a repeatable pattern. A team that does not try to control everything, but always finds a way to control the decisive moments of the game. That is the identity taking shape. A pragmatic, structured Manchester United that is dangerous in a very quiet way. They do not overwhelm you, but they pull you into a game state you cannot escape. They do not need to be perfect, especially while they are still on the journey back to the Champions League. But they are becoming reliable in a way they have not been before. And if United's identity truly lies in controlling moments rather than controlling matches, then the next question is, how do they actually do it? The answer begins at the centre of the entire system, Bruno Fernandes. He is not just a simple playmaker, but the engine that dictates tempo and makes decisions for every attacking move. Whenever Bruno receives the ball in central areas, the entire opposition structure is forced to collapse inward to react. In those moments, United's system comes to life. Around him are satellites like Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo and Benjamin Šeško players who do not need many touches but always move at the right time to exploit the space that has just been created.
Fernandes, a gorgeous finish, but what about the through ball from Fred? Arguably pass of the season, and a wonderful dink from Bruno Fernandes.
Oh, with the chance, and scores for Manchester United! What a start! After 60 seconds, Brian Mbeumo strokes home for his third goal of the season! And after flicked on, turned home, Benjamin Šeško in back-to-back games finds himself on the end of it. Cunha strokes it home! And if you're not going to get a penalty, you might as well score one like that! Brilliant from the Brazilian!
United do not try to keep possession for too long. They draw opponents toward Bruno, open up space, then attack it directly with forward runs and quick transitions. Beneath all of this lies a less talked about weapon, the ability to win ugly, to win imperfect games, combined with trust in young players that prevents the system from collapsing under pressure. What makes this system dangerous is not just how it functions, but how opponents are forced to respond. When they double team Bruno, they leave gaps behind. When they drop deep, they give up proactive pressing. When they push high, the space in behind is immediately exploited. And most ironically, when they dominate possession, they fall into meaningless control, just like Chelsea in that recent match. Every option leads to a trade-off, and none of them are truly safe.
Bit of a smash and grab really from United, one shot on target, 0.3 XG, didn't really do much the whole game. Not that Chelsea was much better, by the way. I thought it was a very low quality game, despite the two clubs being big clubs obviously in the Premier League, but that's what we've seen all season long in the Premier League.
That is when United shift from being an uncomfortable opponent to a genuine threat, not because they do overly complex things, but because they place opponents into a problem with no optimal solution. Every tactical adjustment ends up activating another one of United's weapons. They do not need to force the game into their script. They only need to bend its flow until the opponent falls out of their original structure. All of this happens in very specific zones, the half spaces in the gap between midfield and defence. That is where Bruno receives the ball, where one-touch combinations begin, where perfectly timed through passes are played, and where third-man runs or diagonal movements create the difference. Within this system, Bruno is the trigger, Cunha is the finisher, Šeško acts as a decoy to stretch the defence, and Mbeumo becomes the secondary threat. Whether the opponent plays a low block or mid-block pressing, the logic remains the same. United do not need much of the ball, they just need one precise moment to break the entire structure. And when you put it all together, a very clear loop emerges. The way United operate creates a reaction. That reaction creates a weakness, and that weakness triggers another attacking solution. This process repeats itself until the opponent can no longer control the game. Everything about Manchester United looks highly logical, until they face teams that refuse to play by that logic. Because in big matches, when space opens up, when opponents push higher or try to control the game, Michael Carrick's United almost always find a way to punish them. But against weaker sides teams willing to sit deep, disrupt the rhythm, and accept playing without the ball, that same system begins to reveal its limits.
Well, I'm just disappointed, to be honest, because Stevie's right. The way they finished the game was really good, but the way they started was so poor. You know, this is a Leeds side that just been to extra time just this past weekend, I believe, or not too long ago. So you can see that they have a soft centre. It's a Leeds side that aren't winning a ton of games. And this is a big game. You know, it might not be as clear and obvious as, say, the derby against Liverpool and so on, or against Man City. But with Leeds versus Man United, there's no love lost between the two sides. And Leeds started the game in dominant fashion, in front of 70,000 people, and that was very, very surprising to me.
The numbers reflect this clearly. Against lower table teams, United have taken around 14 out of a possible 33 points, with just 3 wins in 11 matches. Not because they are being dominated, but quite the opposite. They usually have more possession and more control, yet lack a sharp enough tool to break down low blocks and turn that advantage into goals. This is a structural bottleneck, when there is no space for Bruno to exploit, when diagonal runs have no room to develop, United are forced into a slower build-up phase, a state they have not truly mastered. Bruno Fernandes remains the focal point, but now he is facing compact defences with minimal space and multiple layers, significantly reducing his influence. The result is a team that controls games but not damage. They keep the ball but fail to create enough threat. And the longer matches stay in that state, the more likely they are to become stuck or drop point.
Michael has definitely got something special about him, because United have been crap last 4 games. Knight, Tonali, Love.
There cannot be any consideration that Michael takes the job beyond this season. For Michael and for the club.
I think if United win every game from now till the end of the season, I still wouldn't be giving him the job.
Yet this actually reveals the true nature of the team. United under Carrick are not a complete system. They are a system optimised for open games, still learning how to break locked ones. That explains why they can beat the strongest opponents, yet lack the consistency to turn must-win matches into 3 points regularly. So the question becomes inevitable. Can Carrick add the final piece to solve the low block problem? Or will this limitation hold United back, even as they return to the Champions League? If you only look at the surface, the issues are obvious. Manchester United do not yet have a fully complete attacking structure to break every type of opponent. They still rely heavily on Bruno Fernandes. When space is limited, they can fall into a state of control without penetration. But if you look a bit deeper, you will see that Carrick is not trying to solve everything at once. He is choosing something more fundamental and far more difficult. Carrick is teaching United how to win. Not to win in the most beautiful way, not to dominate every opponent, but to win across different game states when space is available, when under pressure, and even when things become chaotic. It is about building a team that can survive in any context before learning how to dominate it. At a club like Manchester United, where the pressure demands perfection and attractive football, accepting ugly wins is actually an extremely difficult transition. But that is exactly why it becomes the most important foundation for any comeback. Carrick is not just pulling United out of chaos, he is teaching them something they had lost, the ability to win without needing to be beautiful. The story of Manchester United is far from finished. This is a system that knows how to survive, how to win decisive moments, yet still struggles when games are locked. What Carrick is building is only the foundation. A team that knows how not to lose before it becomes one that knows how to dominate. A collective that knows how to wait for the right moment before it can create one on its own. The issue is that they are standing right on that boundary. If Manchester United learn how to kill off smaller games, the ones where they have possession, control, but lack the decisive edge in the same way they have handled big matches, then this will no longer just be a top 5 contender. They will become a team capable of entering a true title race. But if they remain stuck at this point, where they can play well, build structure, but lack the cutting edge to finish games, then everything we are seeing now may only be the beginning. So the real question is this: is Michael Carrick building a Manchester United capable of returning to the top, or simply creating a more stable version of their old limitations? The answer will not come from the big matches. Where United have already proven themselves, it will come from the smaller games, where they must prove they can finish the story, not just extend it. If you enjoy from a Europa League champion to struggle in the relegation zone,
it is happening again. It is unravelling again in North London.
Spurs find themselves in the relegation zone, 2 points away from safety. It's a new manager, but same old Spurs.
We are in the relegation zone, fam. Forget the manager. At this point, you could bring in Jesus, Allah, Jah, Zeus, Ares. You could bring in all of them to manage this team, and we'll still go out there and embarrass ourselves.
Spursy has just gone to another different level. The biggest joke of football history.
Is it worth it? Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough.
They're the only team who make giant like Man City look small.
To make it 2-0. No, good save. And now they make it 2. Turned in by João Palhinha.
But ready to kneel to underdog teams.
Another humiliation for Spurs. Another disappointing night in North London for them.
And it looks like such a poor Premier League side, relatively speaking. What do they have over those other two sides? Right now they have nothing. There's not availability, there's not really continuity, there's not really a huge sense of belief.
Owning a £1 billion stadium, the most modern in the world, Tottenham knows how to entertain their audience. Bring in Beyoncé for a world-class show and decide to keep the clowns to the field. Big Six? Yeah, 6 teams watching Spurs drop. Tottenham said, trust the process. Premier League said, relegation process. The story surrounding Tottenham Hotspur has always been built on a familiar assumption: they belong to the Big Six. Therefore, relegation is simply not in the script.
You know you're finishing bottom half next year. I promise you I won't be there. I won't be there with you. You think we're mud brothers, we're not. You see that trophy I just took? I've risen above you now. I'm looking down on you.
Because I know what...
In the popular view, clubs like Tottenham always have an invisible safety cushion. That is a revenue stream among the highest in England, a nearly £1 billion iconic stadium, commercial appeal, and the ability to retain players at a level that the rest of the league finds difficult to reach.
Yeah, I know we have the quality. We have a really good team. I know we can do the job.
When you possess all those factors, people assume that you have enough resources to overcome any period of decline. But football does not operate on faith. It operates according to what happens on the pitch, and the numbers do not lie. After 33 rounds, Tottenham only has about 31 points and is sitting in 18th place. A streak of 14 to 15 winless matches spanning several months, coupled with the fact that they haven't managed a single victory throughout the year 2026.
He believes, though, they can win all 5 games remaining.
Yeah, I believe in Santa as well. It's still another game without a win. They're still in the bottom 3. But like we said last weekend, they need much more than that. That's not just enough being Mr. Positive.
When a team maintains such form over a long period, it is no longer a short-term fluctuation or a momentary slip. It is a clear trajectory, a repeating trend, and usually leads to only one conclusion. For smaller teams, the same run of form would immediately be attributed to a problem of capability. They are not good enough, they lack quality, and relegation is an inevitable consequence. However, when the same thing happens to Tottenham, the terminology changes subtly. It becomes a crisis, a transitional phase, a temporary issue that can be solved just with time. Reputation in this case is not just an image, but a lens that distorts the perception of reality. It is precisely that difference in evaluation that creates a form of illusion of safety. It makes people believe that Tottenham is still in control of the situation, while what happens on the pitch says the opposite. And when a team lives too long in that illusion, the moment of facing the truth often comes more abruptly and harshly. They aren't judged by their ability, but by the glory they are expected to uphold.
Spurs should not be considered a Big Six club.
Finally! Strongly agree. But do you know what? I've been waiting for this conversation. This is the conversation that we need to have. How are you different from Fulham? How are you different from West Ham? How are you different? I don't even know why you're at the table. Your club is
Off of the pitch, right? We have all the infrastructure. We've got the stadium, we've got the training ground, the light changes with the sun, and you've got this, you've got the concerts. All the infrastructure.
Yeah.
All the infrastructure. It's just we just don't match it on the pitch.
West Ham.
The league didn't start when the Premier League started. There was times before that. Spurs have been successful. First team to ever do the double. Used to win trophies, used to win European Cups. It did happen. Just like Forest, just like Villa, just like other big clubs. Newcastle. Because of the inception of the Premier League, everyone thinks that the league started in 92 and blah, blah, blah. Fine. We've not been good. At the moment, we're looking just like we were in the 90s. It's not good. I don't like it.
Tottenham Hotspur at this moment is no longer an underperforming Big Six side. They are a team displaying the exact image of a relegation zone collective. A team that enters matches without enough structure to control the game, without enough sharpness to convert opportunities, and most importantly, without enough stability to protect any advantage.
Area now, Semenyo again, edge of the area, shoot! Bournemouth 3, Tottenham 2, Antoine Semenyo!
When you cannot maintain the tempo of the match, you start to depend on moments. When you cannot finish off your opponent, every small mistake is punished. And when you continuously lose your advantage, the belief within the system itself begins to collapse. That is how a team slides gradually from competing to surviving, and then from surviving to crisis.
I think relegation is the end, I think, for us.
No!
Yeah, I don't think we have what it takes to come back.
Chaos causes more chaos. So when the story is brought back to its technical core, Tottenham Hotspur's problem is no longer about feelings or perspectives, but how they operate on the pitch through each specific play. And if everything had to be summed up in one idea, it is the conflict between control and chaos. Tottenham tries to play like a controlling team, but what they produce instead is a continuous sequence of out-of-control situations. Looking at the build-up phase, instead of seeing a clear structure with pre-prepared deployment options, what appears more often is improvisation. The ball is moved forward, but does not go through stable channels, depending instead on the instantaneous decisions of individuals. This leads to a very clear consequence in the pressing stage. When the ball is lost, instead of the entire block pushing up according to a common trigger, Tottenham's pressing happens disjointedly, with everyone at a different tempo. And in modern football, being offbeat by just one tempo is enough for the system to break. Opponents don't need to do anything too complex. They just need to bypass the first layer of pressure, and behind that, there is almost no truly reliable layer of protection left. When this repeats many times in a match, the concept of control almost completely disappears. From there, the issue with rest defence becomes clearer than ever. Tottenham frequently puts itself in a high-pressing state, but fails to prepare for the worst-case scenario. The distances between lines are stretched, positions do not form a protective network, and when the ball is lost, the formation is immediately stretched vertically. The counter-attacks they face are no longer surprises, but almost inevitable consequences. The number of goals conceded increases not because of an individual mistake, but because the structure behind is not secure enough to withstand the pressure. In other words, every time Tottenham loses the ball, it feels like an emergency defensive play. On the attacking side, the story takes on a different colour, but the result is similar. Tottenham can still get the ball into dangerous areas, and the chance creation metrics are not bad at all. But there is a massive gap between creating an opportunity and converting it into a goal. When Harry Kane and Son Heung-min left the club, Tottenham lost their guaranteed finishing points. Previously, just a half chance could become a goal. Now, they need more chances, but the reliability is lower. This makes the entire attacking system energy-consuming, yet inefficient, and over a long season, that discrepancy accumulates into dropped points. All of these issues ultimately converge in how the squad is organised in space. Tottenham fails to maintain reasonable distances between lines, leading to players frequently falling into a state of isolation. When receiving the ball, they lack sufficient nearby support options, passing triangles fail to form, and ball circulation becomes fragmented. A team can accept errors in a few areas, but when the spatial structure is broken, everything else loses its foundation to operate.
When Tottenham start a season, you don't know. You have no idea what they're going to look like. You have no idea how they're going to play. They don't have a style. They don't have an identity. They don't know who the manager's going to be. They don't have the players that match up what the manager wants, what the ownership wants.
There's no philosophy to get back in the game, but it is a team. It is a team of individuals, James. It is a team of individuals. It is like watching a team go out like a reserve team that you just put them out there, lads, go and have a game.
The current Tottenham is not a true attacking side, nor is it an organised defensive one. They are a collective that has yet to determine how to exist on the pitch, and when you don't know who you are, every match becomes a gamble. The transition from Ange Postecoglou to Thomas Frank, then to Tudor, and finally to Roberto De Zerbi is not merely a change of leadership, but a change of the entire logic of football. Each head coach brings a different system, from the way they build up and press to how they organise space. When the cycle of change happens too quickly, the team does not have enough time to absorb any philosophy. The result is that they are always in a state of learning, but never truly understanding. That lack of stability filters directly down to individual performances. When players are unsure of their roles within the system, they tend to narrow their scope of play, choosing the safe option instead of creating a breakthrough. This is particularly evident when pillars like James Maddison or Dejan Kulusevski are not at their peak physical condition. Tottenham loses its creative bridges, but simultaneously lacks a clear enough structure to compensate. At the back, the instability surrounding Christian Romero leaves the defence without a steady axis, both technically and mentally. The lack of strategic cohesion causes Tottenham to continually slide. As each phase serves a different idea, the squad gradually becomes a collection of individuals suited to different systems, but not truly fitting together within a single one. This creates a prolonged imbalance where every injury or minor fluctuation easily shatters the entire structure. Talent has never been the issue. Structure is what is truly dragging Tottenham down. Looking from the perspective of a club structure, something more interesting than ever suddenly emerges. Despite all the problems being exposed on the pitch and in the way they operate, the narrative surrounding Tottenham Hotspur has not yet completely turned its back on them. The reason is simple: Tottenham is still a massive brand. They own one of the most modern and expensive stadiums in Europe, a revenue-generating machine not just from football, but also from concerts, the NFL, and global events. Their commercial revenue remains among the highest in the Premier League, and memories of Champions League seasons are still very recent. All these factors create a layer of cognitive lag, making many believe that this is just a temporary slip rather than a systemic issue. But precisely because of that, the current moment becomes particularly critical, because if Tottenham truly gets relegated, the impact will not stop at the professional level. Financially, they could immediately lose between £175 million and £200 million per season upon leaving the Premier League, while the entire Championship only shares about £119 million. The total loss could exceed the £200 million to £250 million mark per year, a figure sufficient to shatter the entire current financial structure. The pressure is even greater when placed alongside existing obligations. The debt of approximately £851 million from the stadium does not disappear when the team goes down. On the contrary, it becomes heavier as revenue streams plummet. Sponsorship deals could also be adjusted or cut, leading to a 20 to 40% decrease in commercial revenue. This means this is not a light reset, but a shock that could last for years.
A lot of speculation. The Telegraph did an interesting article on it, but the clauses in sponsorship agreements that are dependent on Premier League participation, the media exposure that comes with it. Now, can you imagine the ramifications of getting relegated on some of these deals, some of which are also expiring relatively soon?
I mean, eye-watering. I mean, absolutely eye-watering.
However, what keeps this story from closing lies in the reality on the pitch itself. Tottenham, despite being in a state of instability, still has a chance. The upcoming fixture list is not impossible to turn around. Tottenham have just defeated Wolves 1-0 to keep themselves in the relegation battle. Then comes Leeds in a direct confrontation where the result could change the entire landscape. And finally, Everton, a match that could become the final of the whole season. With just a streak of 2 to 3 consecutive wins, the entire narrative could flip. And that is the paradox of Tottenham right now. On one hand, they are a prime example of a collapsing system. On the other, they are still only a few wins away from survival. Therefore, if the present is seen as the landing point for all problems, then Tottenham Hotspur's exit route must also begin by stopping, rather than continuing to react. They don't need another short-term pivot, they need a decision clear enough for the entire system to cling to. That stability must first come from the coaching bench, not changing to find a new effect, but keeping a philosophy clear enough and long enough for players to understand what system they are playing in. When the match approach no longer changes constantly, problems with control and structure will have a chance to be solved at the root, instead of repeating in different forms. The attacking puzzle needs to be looked at realistically. The void left by Harry Kane and Son Heung-min is not just the number of goals, but the sense of security in decisive moments. Without a reliable enough finishing point, every chance created is a matter of luck. Conversely, defence is not a story of sitting deep, but a story of organisation. When the way they react after losing the ball is more clearly defined, and when the distances between the lines are no longer uncontrollably stretched, the number of conceded goals will naturally decrease. This is a matter of structure, not of single individuals. And then there is a factor rarely mentioned, but which decides how a team survives in a crisis: the dressing room. A collective lacking a leading voice will always waver when results decline. Tottenham needs players who can maintain performance standards, remain calm, and most importantly, keep the faith when things have not yet improved. When the psychological foundation is stabilised, tactical adjustments will truly have the space to take effect. None of it is too complicated, yet it is very difficult to execute. Tottenham does not lack the resources to fix their mistakes. They also do not lack the individual quality to compete, but without a clear enough structure to connect everything, those advantages will continue to be neutralised over time. Tottenham does not lack money. Tottenham does not lack talent. They lack a system good enough to survive. If Tottenham truly gets relegated, will it be the moment when all the mistakes accumulated over many years are finally exposed in their naked truth? Or will that very fall be the necessary condition, forcing them to rebuild from the foundation before returning as a more stable and dangerous version in the future? If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.